So what if an ancient pillar of faith could actually be the key to solving one of today's biggest economic challenges? It sounds a little out there, right? But stick with me. We're going to dive into this really groundbreaking proposal coming out of Indonesia. The idea? To tackle a massive youth unemployment crisis by pairing the 1400-year-old concept of zakat with cutting-edge digital training. It's a fascinating mix.
Okay, first things first, we really need to get our heads around the scale of the problem here. I mean, Indonesia is this young, super dynamic country, right? But the reality is, millions of its young people are being left behind. They're facing a crisis that honestly threatens the whole nation's future stability and growth.
Let's just start with a number, a really stark one, 16.16%. Just let that sink in for a second.
So what is that? Well, that's the percentage of young Indonesians, we're talking 15 to 24-year-olds, who are actively out there looking for a job and just can't find one. But to really, truly grasp how big of a deal this is, you've got to see it in context. And wow, here's where that context hits you. That massive gap you see, the youth unemployment rate is nearly 4 times higher than the national average. This isn't just some number on a spreadsheet. This is a deep, structural disconnect that's affecting an entire generation.
But here's the thing, unemployment is only part of the story. There's another huge number we have to talk about, nearly 10 million. And these 10 million young Indonesians, they fall into an even more vulnerable category.
They're what's known as NEETs. It's an acronym that stands for Not in Employment, Education, or Training. These are young people who are completely disengaged from the economy. They're not working, they're not in school, they're not learning a trade. And that makes them incredibly vulnerable to being left out for good. This is the exact group that desperately needs a lifeline.
So you gotta ask, why? Why is this happening? Well, when you boil it all down, it's a fundamental mismatch. A huge gap between the skills these young people have and the skills the modern economy is screaming for.
And this really lays it out plain and simple. On one side, you've got employers who are desperate for people with high-tech skills. We're talking Python, SQL, cloud computing, you name it. And on the other side, a huge pool of young people who just don't have that training. It's a classic textbook skills gap.
Okay, so the obvious question is, why don't they just go get the training? Well, the single biggest reason comes down to money, the cost. We're talking up to 35 million rupiah.
Yeah, 35 million rupiah. That's over 2,000 US dollars. That's what a good, high-quality digital bootcamp can cost. Now, if you're out of school and unemployed, that's just an impossible barrier to cross. The very solution that could change everything for them is completely financially out of reach.
And this is such a crucial point. You might think, well, what about all those free programs from big tech companies? The problem is, even those often have strings attached. They have eligibility requirements, like you have to be an active university student, and that automatically excludes the very people we're talking about. The system itself has this massive blind spot. It's what you'd call a market failure, and it means we need a totally new way to intervene.
And this is where we get to the core of this incredible idea. If the modern market can't solve this problem, maybe, just maybe, an ancient tool of social finance can. This is where zakat enters the picture.
Now, for anyone who's not familiar, zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's a mandatory annual donation, and it's basically this powerful, time-tested system designed specifically to redistribute wealth and help people in need. But to see how it applies here, we need to zoom in on one of its specific categories.
And that category is called fi sabīl Allāh. It literally means in the way of God. Now, traditionally, this was often interpreted as referring to those fighting for the faith, but its meaning has evolved over time.
And this is where the brilliant leap in thinking happens. Modern Islamic scholars argue that in today's world, in the way of God can and should include any public good that strengthens the community. And what strengthens a community more than education and economic empowerment? This reinterpretation, it blows the doors wide open. It means zakat funds can be used for things like vocational training and digital education, to empower the most vulnerable to stand on their own 2 feet.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? Because it's not about just handing out cash, not at all. It's about creating a really smart system, one that's targeted, accountable, and totally focused on results.
So here's the flow. It all starts when a young person is assessed to see if they're eligible. If they are, a digital token, basically a smart voucher, is created for them. They use that token to enroll in a certified tech boot camp. And after they graduate and get a job, well, that's when the magic happens, and the cycle is designed to complete itself. We'll get to that in just a sec.
And what makes this so effective is that these vouchers are smart. First off, it's a restricted purpose token. That just means the money can only be spent at approved training centers, so there's no way to misuse the funds. And second, it's outcome-based. The training provider gets 70% of the fee when the student enrolls, but they don't get the final 30% until that student either graduates or, even better, lands a job. This gives everyone an incentive to see it through to success.
And you know, this whole thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's actually a really powerful collaboration. You have the Central Zakat Authority managing the funds, the local government helping to find and identify the right kids, and of course the tech bootcamps providing the actual training. It's a perfect example of a public-private civil society partnership.
All right, so let's talk about the end game here, because the ultimate goal of this program is way more ambitious than just providing some short-term help. It's all about creating a sustainable, virtuous cycle of empowerment.
And this quote, it just captures the entire philosophy perfectly. The goal isn't just to help a mustahik, which is a zakat recipient. The real goal is to empower them so that one day they become a muzakkī, a zakat payer.
So here's the whole journey laid out. A young, unemployed person gets the voucher. They gain these incredible certified digital skills. They go out and secure a high-demand job. And then, here's the beautiful part. From their new income, they start contributing zakat back into the very fund that helped them in the first place, literally paying it forward for the next person in line.
And this isn't just a dream. There's a clear roadmap to make it a reality. They're kicking off a pilot program in major cities next year. From there, the plan is to integrate it into national digital talent frameworks. And the long-term vision? To create a self-sustaining ecosystem that could honestly become a model for the entire region.
Which really brings us to our final thought. This zakat voucher idea, it's more than just a clever policy proposal for one country. It's a challenge, really. It challenges all of us to think differently, and it poses this really powerful question. Can we solve our biggest global challenges by combining ancient faith with modern tech? By creatively reinterpreting our most enduring traditions, can we actually build the innovative solutions we so desperately need for our most urgent modern crises? It's something to think about.